everybody, and welcome to this European Week of Action for Girls and to our event, Girls Connect, to shape EU-Africa partnership and unlock girls' power. Today, I'm very happy to moderate this panel. I'm Yasmine Ouirhrane, and I'm an appointed expert at the African Union, European Union Youth Cooperation Hub, where I work along with other 50 young people on this multi-stakeholder initiative with the African Union, the European Union, and the youth at its core. The event that I will moderate today is organized as part of the European Week of Action for Girls, or EWAG, and it is organized annually by 9 Brussels-based civil society organizations to make and to mark the International Day of the Girl. 30 young advocates from both Europe and Africa this year have worked to shape the EU-Africa partnership. And this particular event of EWAG is in partnership with UNICEF and their U-Reporters. U-Report is a free open source messaging tool for community participation designed to empower young people around the world and to engage and speak on issues that matter for them. It works by gathering opinions, so they gather a huge amount of data and information from unemployment to discrimination and child marriage, and more recently, COVID-19. The U-Report is now active in 68 countries, benefiting from 11 million users all around the world. So we have gathered today some of 5 young advocates from both initiatives, EWAG and U-Report. They are Nancy, Silke, Cyril, Siatra, and Khonaf. And they will be speaking to Ambassador Mara Marinaki, who is the European Union's principal advisor on gender in the European External Action Service. And then we have Chiara Adamo, who is the head of unit on gender, human rights, and democratic governance in the Directorate General for Development and Cooperation at the European Commission. And lastly, also important, we have Amanda Chukwudozie, who is the Youth Engagement Lead at the African Union Commission. So of course, there are some house rules before we start. Please note that this discussion is live streamed directly on Facebook. We will also be recording it, and we would like to kindly ask you to keep your microphones muted during the event. Should you have any questions or remarks during the event, we have especially a Q&A session. Feel free to use the chat box. And lastly, we have some quite young people in the room, so we will moderate the chat to make sure that everything is according to our safeguarding policies. Now, I would like to give the floor to the young advocates to speak on what girls' empowerment means to them and what they think policymakers can do under the framework of the EU-Africa partnership to unlock girls' power. I will start with Nancy. Nancy, please, the floor is yours. Nancy, if you could please unmute yourself. Thank you. Still can't hear you. Just click on the button, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy. I am 15 years old, and I'm from Sierra Leone. I'm a young EWAG advocate. Thanks to EWAG for creating this platform for girls so our voices can be heard on issues affecting us. In my country, I have been a child rights activist since the age of 13. I have actively participated in World Vision It Takes a World to End Violence Against Children campaign, creating awareness in communities on the effect of violence against girls health stakeholders and duty bearers accountable to fulfill on the rights of girls, so girls can grow up in a safe and loving environment. To me, girls' empowerment means protecting girls from violence and harmful practices, removing the barriers that prevent girls from reaching their full potentials in life. In Sierra Leone, many young girls are beaten at home and sexually abused within families and communities. Abuse is rarely reported, and even when it is, families and local authorities tend to compromise the cases. The physical and psychological trauma that follows is extremely harsh. In most occasions, it results into unwanted pregnancies, thereby posing yet another threat to the lives of these young girls. Sierra Leone has 42% of women ranging from age 15 to 49 who have experienced FGM between the ages of 10 and 14. Roughly 3 million girls in Africa undergo FGM every single year, and Sierra Leone is one of the only countries in West Africa where the rate of prevalence is over 90%. FGM exposes girls to serious health risks: early marriage, teenage pregnancies, gender-based violence, school dropout, and even deaths. COVID-19 also increased gender-based violence-related risks and violence against girls, limiting survivors' ability to distance themselves from their abusers, as well as reducing their ability to access external support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Strong words on protection of girls from harmful practices and the importance to work along with young people to empower girls. Thank you so much. We have then Silke from Belgium. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Silke. I'm 25, and I am a One Youth Ambassador and a young advocate with the European Week of Action for Girls. I think that a girl's education is everything. When a girl can go to school, it gives them a voice. There are so many benefits to educating girls that it shouldn't even be a question, really. It leads to later marriage, later pregnancy, child mortality rates fall, girls are more protected from sexual violence, and studies even show that it would help fight climate change. Educated women also educate their children, so this would benefit boys just as well. But despite all this, before the COVID crisis, there were already more than 130 million girls not in school, and the pandemic has only made this worse. I want to ask policymakers to stop letting this potential go to waste and to fight with us for safe, quality education for all girls. This can be accomplished in many ways. For example, providing access to schools, but also scholarships and digital devices. Let's just put aside gender roles and occupational stereotypes. Girls, as we know, belong in all fields, and they should have access to diverse learning opportunities and gender-balanced employment opportunities. Let's make sure the EU closes the gap, because none of us are equal until all of us are equal.
Thank you so much, Silke. Important words on education, but especially digitalization. And it is so important as our next speaker, Cyril, is having some troubles with the internet and connecting. So we will wait for him, but meanwhile, I will give the floor to our last speaker, which is Siatra. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Siatra. I am 22 years old, and I'm a EU Report Ambassador from Zimbabwe. I think basically for me, I would like to acknowledge what my previous colleague speakers have already mentioned in terms of the problems. But for me, I think I'll go to the point of defining what empowerment is, what empowering the girl child is, because that's what matters even for us when we were trying to now measure the impact and monitor it. So I would say my kind of definition for girl empowerment would be a multidimensional social process that helps girls gain control over their own lives. It is also a process that fosters power in girls for use in their lives, in their communities, in their societies, by acting on issues that they define as important. And what I mean by power is the capacity, having the capacity to implement whatever you want to tackle in terms of addressing the issues. And also you'd find that all the issues that were mentioned by the previous speakers, you'd find that these are done at the level of the people in power, not from the individual level. And when you're defining this, you'd find that individual and community are fundamentally connected. So when empowering the girl child, you need to start off from the very first level, which is the culture. When you're cultural empowerment, this is where, especially for the African girl child, the biggest barrier in terms of implementing and speaking out on platforms. And will it work? Yes, because I'm, from a personal note, speaking from an empowered girl child, and you find that it is a process, it's a journey that we continuously work on. And when you start off from the root, you would go up and be able then to advocate. So I'm saying to every leader, to every person in power, when we talk about empowering the girl child, let's start off addressing the cultural roots, because that's where then we can be able to hold all the other problems that are coming up, even in terms of education-wise, because when you deal with culture, you would then address the loopholes that are a barrier in terms of access to digital education that we are now pushing for in terms of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Siatra. Cyril is not with us, but we are very inspired to hear youth voices, and especially strong voices from different countries addressing harmful practices, the importance to tackle education, to change gender norms, but also how to challenge cultural biases and to give capacity and tools to girls and women. And as we talk about youth voices, we also want to talk about youth role, as it was given an opportunity to us at the EU Youth Hub to work alongside the African Union and the European Union in the draft of projects. So we have heard from the youth, and now we will turn to our panel policymakers, who are actually women with, who are role models. They have positions where their voice can be heard. And we would like to hear from you in what perspective you are ensuring girls' voice are heard. We would like to ask to you to please keep your intervention as short as possible for a lively debate. And I will start with Ambassador Marinaki. You are currently working both on the EU-Africa partnership, but also with a focus on women, peace and security. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yasmine, and a warm good morning to everybody who is listening to us, and of course to the fellow panelists. It is a great pleasure to launch the 2020 Week of the Girl in such a rich and diverse panel where all of us bring our own wisdom from every different angle, and we all try to make things different and better for everybody, but most importantly for the girls around the world, for the millions of girls around the world. Indeed, as you said, the European Union is very sensitive in everything that has to do with women and girls, with gender equality, with encouraging and promoting the empowerment of women and girls. We take up policies and we try as much as possible to make opportunities out of necessities, especially in the case now of the COVID-19 and all the very grim realities that have surfaced in the lives of women and girls and the rest of the world in recent months, something that was unheard of last year when we were planning for 2020 to be a major anniversary year for all of us to celebrate accomplishments, to take stock of what has been achieved in the 25 years since Beijing in 1995, and to map the way ahead and also, of course, dream about new visions and set up new targets. Unfortunately, due to COVID, these things had to be revisited, but this does not mean that our enthusiasm has gone out of the way. We still focus on what we can achieve. We only adapt and adjust our policies in a way that would reflect these grim realities. You know that we have pledged as European Union more than 15 billion euros as a global package on COVID response. And out of this amount, more than 3 billion will go to Africa. It is very important to highlight this cardinal relationship between the African Union and the African continent overall, and the European Union and Europe overall. We are twin sisters that are only divided by the Mediterranean, and we definitely see eye to eye on how to help out each other in these difficult times and build on a very rich and joined up tradition of our relations. We have a strategy in place, the EU-Africa strategy, that aims to present indeed a different narrative of our relations with 5 key areas of focus. It is on green transition and energy access. It is on digital transformation, you mentioned it already. It is on sustainable growth and jobs, again with a strong emphasis on the gender element, on peace and governance, and on migration and mobility. In all of these areas, now we're working together with our friends in Africa in order to map the way ahead, to decide on the areas where all of us can bring the best elements forward. And it is important that first and foremost, before we launch any new plans, first and foremost, we safeguard the safety and the security of women and girls in order to enable them to deploy their full potential and to find their true calling in the future. In this context, there is already in place our Spotlight initiative, a global partnership with the United Nations with $500 million worldwide, of which a very important part of more than 250 million is for Africa, and indeed it aims to help eradicate harmful practices, all kinds of harmful practices against women and girls, against child marriage, against female genital mutilation, against son preference, all the elements that have been undermining the capacities of the society to bring forward all the excellent qualities of girls and help them in their future. Because girls and boys are the young ambassadors that are there to promote all the shared messages and all the shared principles that should be the guiding lights for our future. In this context, definitely education takes center stage. And we are aiming now to take up a new strategy, a comprehensive strategy on the rights of the child and the child guarantee. And we intend also to strengthen our support to digital education and to the protection of the most vulnerable boys and girls, with the emphasis on this aspect of their lives that would pave the way for everything else to come ahead. So youth, gender, and sensitivities around education are the central poles of all our policies, and we very much look forward to listening to more inspiring ideas today to take our work forward, and closely working with you, with a big thank you to Plan International for its plan and for its commitment every year. We're proud, and it's a pleasure for us to join. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Marinaki. Strong words related to the current challenges that we are facing around the world, but also on the need to promote education and the work that you do at the External Action Service of the European Union. I would now like to give the floor to Mrs. Adamo from the European Commission. Mrs. Adamo, you are working on the EU-Africa partnership. And in addition, you're in the midst of designing the third EU Gender Action Plan that takes a lot of time. And in your role, how do you believe the European Commission is ensuring it stands with girls? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much and good morning, everyone. I will start by adding my voice to the one of my commissioner, Hutta Urpilainen, in charge of international partnerships. She wrote a letter to a girl yesterday on the occasion of the European Week of Action for Girls. And she wrote, I believe that if we listen to you girls more and bring your energy and hope into our work, we really can change the work for the better and faster. So I add my voice to hers because this is really our point of departure if we want to get it right. The first point is really to listen to you more. So today is a perfect opportunity for us to do so as part of the policy making at the EU and EU levels, and I really thank the organizer for giving us this opportunity. So indeed, at the European Union level, we believe that we must engage more directly with young people on the issues that really directly concern them. So we started to do this very concretely to a number of initiatives aiming really at empowering youth, giving opportunities to actively participate in decision making at political, civic, democratic and economic level. And we started to consult girls and boys on policies concerning them through different means. You mentioned in the introduction the UNICEF EU report tool. This is really a tool that we have been using in cooperation with UNICEF and the African Union, also in the run-up to the EU-AU Africa Summit. It's a digital campaign. It has reached out to millions of young people across Europe and across Africa to get the opinion of young people on climate change, digital transformation, sustainable economic growth, job creations, education, peace and security, you name it. Despite the restrictions due to the current situation, we are very, very glad to see that really this youth tool allowed us to consult millions of young people. The results will be issued in a report very shortly. I just saw a few preliminary evidence, and one data was striking. One of the data you will see in the report is that 88% of the young people who replied said that they would like to be more involved in decision making, but 46% of them, so half of them, say they don't feel included in decision making on issues affected them. So there is a real need there we really need to fill. So we also, of course, have other ways to consult young people, and we are using also Eurobarometers and Afrobarometers to see about needs, aspirations, and opinions. There is a red thread which links up European and African youth. If you ask them through this service, what is your major concern right now? And the major concern is really unemployment. At least that is what is coming out of the most recent Eurobarometers, and unfortunately the COVID context is not making it better. So once we have listened to the aspirations and concern, we need to create spaces to dialogue with boys and girls. Spaces like the one you are giving us today, but also more systematically, we are looking into creating youth sounding boards, both in Brussels, but also in each and every country where we have EU delegations. So the idea really to create a space with and for young people to co-create and really make sure that we meaningfully involve you in what we are going to do. Third and last, once we listen, once we dialogue, once we co-create, we need to act. And I listened very, very attentively at the interventions from the young people, and your interventions are all extremely relevant. You went from talking about sexual gender-based violence to education, to the importance of eradicating social norms and discriminatory stereotypes. And that is really what we are up against right now. Mara Marinaki mentioned the Spotlight Initiative. It is just one example, but I think it's a very good one because this initiative really focuses on Africa on addressing harmful practices and gender-based violence, not only by changing the laws, which is very, very important and the basis, but it's also about implementing these laws, making sure that there are quality services for girls and women available to them, that women organizations are very much, and youth organizations are very much at the forefront of the action, and they engage with men and boys, with traditional leaders, so that there is a whole of society approach to change things bottom up. And I mentioned the Spotlight because some of you referred to COVID. And through Spotlight, we managed to really redirect a number of the services we were providing to cope with the COVID situation by front-loading helplines and digital services to help against abuses and domestic violence, making sure that victims and survivors could really denounce their cases, but also to give lifeline support to women's organizations. We were able to really shuffle 21 million euros really to come with the emergency of the COVID. So this is just one example. We can discuss more, and this is a dialogue, so I will now cut it short. But as you said at the beginning, we are also very busy preparing the new EU agenda on gender equality. We hope that this will be out in mid of November. It is very much a common endeavor, and with Ambassador Marinaki, this is, I think, our daily bread in this last final rush. And we are all and both really determined to make sure that this gender action plan really addresses the issues that you have pointing us today, and that it will really take a girls-centered approach. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mrs. Adamo. And you mentioned a very important initiative, the EU report, where the African and European youth was involved on the process of collecting data. We actually at the EU Youth have worked with you to analyze this data and gather it. So we're very, very happy of this collaboration. We would like to now hear from the youth. Our 4 ambassadors and advocates, young advocates, have some recommendations, not only for policymakers, but for anyone listening to us. So I will give now the floor to Nancy. Please, the floor is yours.
As a young youth advocate, I am recommending to European and African leaders to accelerate the political will to provide funding for the provision of accessible support services and safe places within communities for girls, life skills development for youth, and friendly spaces where they can unify their voices and amplify them to end violence and harmful practices against girls. And also, it is very important that children should be part of this process to ignite and advocate for change that contributes to our well-being. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And before going forward with our other recommendations from young people, I would like now to give the floor to our third speaker, who is Mrs. Chukwudozie, and she is the lead of youth engagement at the African Union Commission. So please, the floor is yours. We would like to hear from you in what are you looking forward to push on this EU-Africa partnership, especially for Girls Power. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Yasmine, and good morning to everybody. Good morning to everyone on the panel, everyone listening. Really great to connect with you today. As Yasmine said, I lead youth engagement at the African Union. So young people are my bread and butter, and believe it or not, I'm also a young person myself. And I'm going to start with a fun fact. I was born the same year the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child was adopted. So let me give you some time to do some quick maths. So when I was growing up, I had that environment, that policy space that was given, which trickled down into my society and my family life. I was fortunate to have a family that valued the girl child. They looked after me. They gave me access to education. They gave me access to opportunities. Despite society's inequality, I'm Nigerian, and we have a notoriously patriarchal society. And despite that society, my family, my immediate environment nurtured me to the point where I was able to take these opportunities. And now I work as a young African woman who works to protect and promote the rights of children and young people. And it shows you what a difference it makes to empower a girl. And I'm very fortunate, but there are millions of young girls, not just in Africa, but across the world, who are not as fortunate as I am. And when we look at Africa, I can speak in our context. It's a continent that is rife with inequality. It goes without saying, everybody knows this. Despite how rich we are, despite our natural resources, despite our human resources, people are still poor, people are still disenfranchised. A large number of people still find themselves seeking opportunities and outcomes. And the gender gap in Africa, we know, is quite severe. We've got a vast youth population. We have a lot of young people in Africa. The African Union defines youth as 15 to 35, but we also know that the children of today are the youth of tomorrow, and we must ensure that seamless transition. So we also make sure that we're looking at the children who are becoming youth every day. And we've been told by the scientists that if we invest in education, if we invest in employment, entrepreneurship, empowerment of young people, we can achieve something called a demographic dividend. I know it's very technical, it's technicalese, but they've explained to me that a demographic dividend is basically how our economy can grow. We can make some great economic gains when we have a working population that is bigger than a dependent population. So we have a lot of young people that can work, save, and get a better life. But there are a lot of obstacles in the way at the moment. You know, we have a significant population of people who are not in school, and a lot of that population are girls for different cultural and systemic reasons. They're not working. Girls are still adversely affected by that. And that gives them little agency to make a living and contribute in society. You know, we say that when you've not eaten, how are you going to govern? How are you going to figure out what's happening in parliament when you're still scavenging for food? And then COVID-19 came and worsened some of these struggles because of the mitigation strategies. I mean, our lives as young people were affected, our lifestyles were affected, and our livelihoods were affected. The digital divide has never been deeper. For those people who don't have access to come on a Zoom chat like this, they will not even know that these conversations, they will not be invited to these spaces because of those problems. And for girls, you know, there are singular obstacles that affect girls, child marriage, FGM, all the panelists have spoken a bit about some of these, gender-based violence, and just general disenfranchisement, which deals with the confidence of young girls. I want to read a direct quote from the executive director of UNFPA on the celebration of the International Day of the Girl Child. She said that a study by UNFPA and its partners shows that the pandemic could result in 13 million more child marriages and 2 million more cases of FGM between now and 2030. And this is in addition to the millions that were already expected to take place. Adolescent pregnancy is on the rise, and girls under lockdown are out of school and highly vulnerable to harm. So it's very clear that if we mean to achieve the SDGs, if we mean business with Africa's Agenda 2063, if we're serious with young people, we need to give our young people hope, dignity, and agency. We need to give young people the requisite tools. We need to listen to young people. We need to give them platforms and spaces. We need to give young people tools and let them take ownership. We have something called the Africa Youth Charter, which sets out the rights of young people. And Article 26A And Africa Youth Charter was written by young people at the time in 2006. I was already young then. And Article 26A calls upon young people to take ownership of their own development. So we need to give young people autonomy. We need to stop with the handouts and give young people the space to co-create with us and to also take autonomy in their own future and in their destiny. And then we need to provide, as policymakers, we need to provide an enabling environment. We need to give young people infrastructure, power, internet, education, access to jobs that will make them be meaningful contributors in their society. So I just want to speak really quickly, if I can use my remaining 1 minute, 20 seconds, just to talk a bit about how we do business at the African Union. We have the 1 million by 2021 initiative, which a lot of people have heard of. It's an initiative of the AU chairperson that wants to give 1 million opportunities to young people in the areas of education, employment, entrepreneurship, and engagement. And I'll explain why. The way we try to ensure and push the youth development agenda is, we like to say, as simple as ABCDE. We want to do advocacy. So what we do, we advocate for the issues of young people on a high level and encourage advocacy in young people. We do what we call brokerage. So we broker partnerships. We say, you're doing this person is also doing this. How about you come together on the platform of the AU and do this together? We do something called country acceleration. The African Union it's a body. It sits in Addis Ababa, but it looks after 55 AU member states. And we have to make sure that at country level, young people are being listened to and they're being taken care of. We also do something called demonstration. We want to show countries that what we're asking you to do is not a tall order, it's doable. We're able to do that. And the 1 million is a very, very clear example of how we want to demonstrate to countries that it's possible to give opportunities, to talk less and do more for young people, if you put your mind to it. And then we also engage. We are the youth division. They always tell us that policy bodies don't usually, we work for member states, but we insist that we need to engage our constituency, which is young people. And we do that by mobilizing them, by orienting them, by facilitating conversations, and by activating young people. And in the context of COVID, we've also been doing a lot of work to keep young people online. We have something we call a 3x4 model. I don't want to bore everyone with too much technicalese, but what we try to do is to keep young people online, for them to continue learning, for them to be innovators, for them to be safe because they have to stay alive as well, and for them to also be responders. We want young people to respond to what's going on with COVID. And we strive to walk the talk with our gender equality. So some of the ways we walk the talk in the youth division, we have the African Union Youth Volunteer Corps, and 53% of the 600 deployed volunteers are women. 50% of trained volunteers, of 1,000 trained volunteers are women. We're not interested in tokenism, we're interested in parity. We also have targeted programs for women. We have the African Young Women Leaders Fellowship, which we do with UNDP, which is specifically for women, and it's a high-level fellowship. We want to train the next generation of women leaders, put them in strategic positions in the UN and the AU system, and basically mentor them with a lot of senior women that we all admire. We have the African Women Leadership Network of past presidents, female presidents of Africa. Yasmine, I see you nodding, I'm sure you know about them. And they mentor a lot of our young girls and women as well. And we are also working with Gender Directorate in our commission on the End Child Marriage campaign, which is very close to our heart. And of course, last but not the least, most definitely not the least, we have our partnership on the AU-EU cooperation, and we have the AU-EU Youth Hub, and gender is something that is mainstreamed into every single cluster within our AU-EU Youth Hub, which Yasmine is a member of. And then we have coming up something we call Africa Youth Month. So this year, the theme of Africa Youth Month is Youth Voices, Actions, and Engagements, Building a Better Africa. And as part of Africa Youth Month, we're going to hold an advocacy training to young advocates on ending child marriage. And it's very important to us that young people are taking up the mantle in their own spaces and cascading what they know to their communities. So let me just finish here and say that Aspiration 6 of Africa's Agenda 2063 says that it aspires to an Africa where development is people-driven, unleashing the potential of women and youth. So if we give our women, if we give our young women, if we give our youth the requisite education, employment, health conditions, agency, dignity, hope, we could be the generation that breaks the cycle of gender inequality, of intergenerational poverty, of missed opportunities for development. But that is only if. Young people cannot wait. Young girls cannot keep waiting. And we have to act now as policymakers, as young people. We have to act together to secure our future, not just for ourselves, but for those who come after us. Thank you very much, Yasmine. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chukwudozie. You pointed very important issues and also commitments, lots of hope for the future. And hopefully through this partnership and together, we will be able to put forward all these recommendations. And thank you also for the amazing work that you carry on. I will now turn to the young advocates and ambassadors from EWAG and EUReport. We heard from Nancy, and now I would like to hear a recommendation very quickly from Silke. Please, the floor is yours.
Hi, I hear you all have very interesting plans, but the thing is with implementing a plan for girls' education and economic empowerment, or any plan, you need to take into account the specific country's situation. And therefore I would like to recommend using CSOs, youth-led groups, especially women-led groups from the country in question to assist with any implementation.
Thank you so much. Thank you for keeping it short. And now I'm very, very happy to welcome Cyril, who wasn't able to join before due to internet issues. I would like to ask you two things. The first part is why did you become a girls activist? If you could explain us very quickly, and then your recommendations for our policymakers. Thank you. Please, Cyril.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Good morning to everyone and online and watching us on Facebook as well. I'm much honored to be part of this discussion. So I'm Cyril Alexis and Otabil, and I'm an advocate of girls' empowerment. And it's interesting how I became a girls' rights advocate. So in junior high school, I stood for a leadership position in school, and I stood with a fellow girl. The results came out and she won, but then I was told to be the head and she be the deputy, just because I'm a boy and she's a girl. I had a very bad, guilty conscience about the whole situation. In as much as I was the one who was made the head, I felt very guilty. And that was how the journey of me being a girls advocate started. So I moved on to understand the reason behind this and to challenge the status quo, because then it didn't make sense to me. And I didn't want my sister or any other girl for that matter to suffer such injustice or unfairness in society, because it is just not right. So that is how I became a girls advocate in the first place, because I realized that girls are growing up in a world which has been socialized for men, socialized by men for men. And in as much as I'm a man, I don't agree to that status quo. And I think the world should be an equal playing ground for each and every sex. I mean, for all human beings to thrive and to be able to make very good use of their potential, to maximize their well-being and to make meaningful contribution to the world. So my clear-cut recommendations for how this can be advanced by the EU is to, I don't keep to the heart of the EU is digitalization and advancing climate change. These are good. I mean, they are marvelous plans. However, to what end will this be if the girl child cannot meaningfully contribute her quota to advancing these interventions or enjoying its benefits meaningfully, all because she's not empowered enough? The EU ought to make clear-cut plans for girls to be empowered and to actively and meaningfully get involved in these interventions that seek to achieve Goal 5 of the UN Agenda 2030. Deliberate plans such as quota systems must be implemented, since it has proven to be the best way to afford girls opportunities in education and meaningful participation at various levels of decision-making. This ought to be the priority of the EU in collaboration with the AU. And this must be done because women have been far too long sidelined, and it is a painful thing to see. We must act now, and this is the way to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cyril. Thank you for sharing your story and for your recommendation. Now we'd like to give the floor to Siatra. Please, the floor is yours, and please keep it short. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmine. I want to start off from a background of the EU report poll that was conducted recently. You'd find that when we asked the young people one thing they would want to change, 45% of the 6,113 young people responded saying poverty. They wanted to change the poverty states that they're in and the inequalities. But the 29% of the 45% said poverty is one thing that they want to change. And then when asked if they had the power then to implement this and change that one thing they want to take away, only 55% said they have the power, but it's a minimized power because they don't have the capacity. Therefore, I acknowledge what Chiara mentioned in terms of co-creation spaces, where we are partnering then with the policymakers and implementers with the young people to make sure that we achieve one goal. But I would want to recommend that in these spaces before, the first thing that we need to do is capacitate the young person to actively and meaningfully participate in these co-creation spaces, because a young person will not be able then to participate fully if, one, they don't understand the jargons. For example, what Amanda was saying, the jargons of dividend and, you know, all those kind of jargons. To a simple young person, they would never understand because it's the technical word that certain young people understand. So we would say meaningfully participate is a matter of capacitating the young person to understand the jargon, bring it down for them, simplify it, and make sure as well they're able to then influence decisions. By influencing decisions, they're supposed to be capacitated enough to speak out in those spaces that have been created. Because it's now high time we move from being given the fish, that means being given the spaces to participate, but also teach me how to fish and capacitate me to make my own fishing rod. Just like what Shirley Trishram says, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. That means that young person is capacitated enough to even make sure that they can create a space for themselves to participate meaningfully, even within the spaces that have been created and out of the spaces that have been created, taking into consideration equality and equity as well when we talk about these issues. And most importantly, investing in these spaces to also reach out to the young people with disabilities, number one, and young people in remote areas, but keeping a balance as well for both, even those that are not in the remote areas, that in the peri-urban areas and all other spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siatra. Thank you for this recommendation. And now I would like to open the floor for a question and answer session, very quick question and answer session. But the first person I would like to give the floor is Khonaf. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, I'm Khonaf and I'm a young advocate from European Week of Action for Girls. So I have prepared two questions for everyone. The first one is especially for Amanda, the ambassador. And my question for you is, in the future EU-AU partnership, how many pillars for your corporation will include girls' rights and gender equality? And especially which pillar, according to you, should be prioritized? The floor is yours, Amanda.
Please, Amanda.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Khonaf. The short answer is all the pillars should include girls' rights. There is nothing that we're speaking about that girls are not disproportionately affected. And when you speak about digitalization, when you speak about climate change, sustainable development, when you speak about governance, peace and security, I mean, women are always the first and the highest number of casualties of any issues in these areas. And I think it's very important that gender and young women especially need to be mainstreamed across all of our work. We should not even lose that. When you speak about which pillar should be prioritized, I have personal biases about which ones I think are a silver bullet, one of which is digitalization. I'm very big on infrastructure as a silver bullet. I'm very big on giving people opportunities and enabling environment. I keep saying I'm Nigerian because I'm very proud of my country, and Nigerian young people are very enterprising. And we often say that, don't give us a government. Give us a phone, give us internet, give us lights, and we'll sort ourselves out. And I think young people, especially young Africans, I can speak for, have that spirit of enterprise. If you give them opportunities, they will transform the world. And I think that's where we need to focus on. Over.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Khonaf. Second question.
Thank you. And on that note about digitalizations, my second question is for everyone. And it is, have any of you done anything to increase girls' online participation, which at the moment is decreasing due to mostly online harassment? And if not, do you know how to? The floor is yours to everyone.
Yes, who would like to take this one? Maybe Mrs. Adamo? Yes, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, no, this is an incredibly important issue, and unfortunately also a growing one, in the sense that digitalization is, of course, a great opportunity to amplify voices, and at the same time we see how much the harassment online and violence online and hate speech online is directed more and more toward women and girls. So we need to be also giving the meaning to defend oneself. In terms of empowerment programs, we have been testing a few. We have a whole program where we work with political parties in different countries in Africa and other regions, but also with parliaments, where we devote particular attention to young women, politicians to be, if you like, or politicians in parliaments, to make sure that they do acquire the skills also to be leaders online, to be able also to protect themselves online. And this issue of threats online for women is common to every part of the world, be it Europe, Africa, or elsewhere. I will always remember this survey by The Guardian. They made 3 years ago or something. They interviewed all their journalists across the board, and it came up that 8 out of 10 journalists who are harassed are women. And most of them are women with an ethnic background, which is different from the majority population where they operate. So I think it is indeed a point of attention that we need also to translate in our future programs and in our gender action plan. So thank you for this.
Thank you so much. So Ambassador Marinaki, would you like to come in and at the same time maybe share any commitment that you would like to make after having heard from these inspiring and strong young voices in the room?
Thank you very much. Inspiring indeed, and very much taking notes on this. I would like to take it up from where Chiara has just left it, on the sense of the need. We get back to square one. Until women and girls feel safe and secure, there is no way for them, for us, all of us, to deploy our full potential. So the infrastructure on which to build has to take a first element on security and safety and measures in this direction. And this is why also the European Union has taken as its utmost priority to ensure that violence against women is not an issue any longer, and it includes it as a cross-cutting element in all our programs. We feel that until we achieve that, everything else will not fall into place for obvious reasons. So what we listened very carefully is indeed we need to amplify further the voices of girls. And also, I would like to underline how important it is for occasions like today to promote more women as role models, for everybody to be able to see, to listen, to understand, and get it closer to us. See that if anybody else has done it, then I can do it too. So we should talk less, we should do more, definitely. I fully subscribe to what Amanda has indicated, to strive to walk the talk on gender equality and women's empowerment, to continue rather to work, because this is a non-negotiable for the European Union, with civil society, with grassroots activists, with women human rights defenders in circumstances where the freedom of speech should not be taken for granted. All of these are important parameters of our work. And of course, to give young people hope, agency, and opportunity. It's not only for the Sustainable Development Goals, it serves well to have something to aspire to, but it goes far beyond 2030. It goes far beyond our own lives or our own generation. It creates the future for the whole of the world that we need to contribute. On pillars to prioritize digitalization and opportunities for enterprise, hand in glove with safety and security. And last but not least, on the element of cybercrime and hate speech, to help increase women's online participation, we are trying to work, and Chiara has already indicated, together with the European Parliament, but also together with our own member states, to create the safety net that would be the necessary legislative infrastructure to put in place, and then to help implement it and spread it across not only Europe, but also in Africa and around the world. So I would like to stop at that with a big thank you to all of you. Let's make the Week of the Girl the Year of the Girl and beyond that. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Marinaki. Thank you for your strong commitment, but also for reminding of our responsibility and mentioning the work that you are carrying for protection and participation of women in online spaces along with the European Parliament. And I'm very happy to see that we have with us today an MEP, Dr. Pierrette Fofana. She is free to ask any question if she wants. So I will just leave it there. And before continuing with our questions, I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Amanda Chukwudozie. Please, the floor is yours for one commitment. Please keep it short. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Yasmine. I think we're committed to enforce something that looks like an ecosystem of practice. I think we need to protect our young girls and women online with the policies and the policy space and for things like that. We need to empower young people to also be autonomous and take agency when they're online and in those spaces. And I'm looking at the AU Youth Hub. So Yasmine, you're asking me for commitment, but I'm also throwing it to you. I'm looking at spaces like the AU Youth Hub to look at how to innovate and make sure that we're able to empower and create tools that empower our young people. We need to educate. And not just the young girls, but also boys and people who harass young women online. I think a lot of times we focus on mitigation measures and we don't really tackle the issues from the cause. There needs to be a re-education of boys in our society. And I think I can say that candidly. We need to weed out very harmful norms and cultural practices where women find themselves targeted. And also we need to enforce. I think at some point there needs to be some repercussions for crimes that are committed online, such as that. And we need to get very serious about enforcing the law and rules against crimes against women. So these are the things that we'll be looking at. And I think we can immediately commit to working with the hub to see how, as we look at digitalization, we can also strengthen the safety and security component. Thank you, Yasmine.
Thank you so much for reminding of the importance to co-create with young people. And now I would like to end by giving the floor to Mrs. Adamo. Please, you have 1 minute for your commitment. Thank you so much. If you could unmute yourself, please.
Yes, managed. since we are on the verge of coming forward with our 5 years plan of priority on gender equality and our support to gender equality and women and girls empowerment outside the EU, then the commitment is clear. The commitment is to make sure that this gender action plan really ensures that there is a people-centered approach, an approach which looks at girl and adolescent girl throughout their life span, throughout sectors from education to sexual and reproductive health and rights, to access to employment, opportunities and challenges of digitalization, and also, of course, the participation and involvement in the climate change. Be in terms of decision making, having a voice, but also as actors of change. So I think that the commitment is really to make sure that with this plan, we also walk the talk, as Ambassador Marinaki said, so that from the plan to the implementation, we do involve youth, girls and women organizations, civil society, as Siatra asked for, and really we connect the dots across these policies so that we don't leave gaps. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this commitment, Mrs. Adamo. And now I would like to give the floor to the MEP, Dr. Pierrette Fofana. We know that you are very committed and you will also meet our young advocates soon. So please, the floor is yours.
Can you see me?
We can hear you. Hello.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Yes.
Good morning.
You see me? I don't know.
Now we see you, yes.
Okay, also thank you very much for giving me the floor. The International Girls' Day is an opportunity to promote them, and for this reason, these programs should be publicized at the level of association, but also in schools. We have a young population of girls in Africa who are particularly confronted with certain problems that prevent them from developing, such as forced marriage, FGM, and so on. With the COVID-19, the number of forced marriage is likely to increase, as we know. Everywhere but in the world, the situation of girls gives us hope. The 21st century is a century of women, but also of girls who will have the opportunity to enter the political world so that they can be the change they want to see. As a shadow of a reporter for the EU-Africa strategy, I made sure to introduce amendments that look at the situation of girls and women. It is important to always underline the role and different realities girls face in order to achieve a truly sustainable development and social justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have all the institutions represented from the European Union, and we heard from the African Union Commission. Thank you so much for your commitments. I would like to end by giving the floor, the last words to our youth. So, and especially to our 4 young ambassadors and advocates, Nancy, Silke, Cyril and Siatra. I know there is something you like to say before we leave. So Nancy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And it is very important if we imagine the number of female doctors and nurses, lawyers, engineers, political leaders. Our society is losing because girls are dropping out of school as a result of violence and harmful practices perpetrated against them. One day we should know that violence and harmful practice against girls is a thief. It robs girls of their future, their dignity, human rights, and God-given potentials. We believe that a world without violence against girls is possible. And I, as a young advocate, I am determined to experience that world without violence against girls. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nancy, for your closing remark. And then I would like to give the floor to Silke, please.
Thank you all 4 of you for your efforts to include girls in the EU-Africa partnership. I would just like to remind you again that the benefits of educating girls are so broad that when you invest in a girl's education, you are not only changing her life, you are creating a better world and a better future for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And now I would like to hear from Cyril, please.
Thank you very much, Yasmine. So we are all born equal. We are all born equal. And as such, we must live it by giving equal opportunities to boys and girls to reach their full potential. And so we integrate this mindset and this agenda of girls' empowerment into our systems and our way of life to make the world safe for girls. It will just be a dream. Females make more than half of the world's population. Hence, we cannot make steady progress, or we can't make progress at all if this significant population is left behind. In fact, the world would be a better place, and the world would benefit more in making significant change and progress if more than half of its population is empowered. The future I seek is female. It has women who are empowered in education, finances, and know and own their bodies. We can achieve it. It is not unachievable. We can achieve it. And it starts with you and I. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your commitment and your strong words. Now I will end with Siatra, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Yasmine. I want to start off saying it to everyone, to the parent of today, to the parent of tomorrow. For us to achieve an equal world, and for when we get to the implementers level, let's start off from the home level. Treat your kids as equal because they're all your children despite the agenda. Despite that, this is a girl, this is a boy. Teach him and teach her to fix cars, electricians, everything. Teach them everything that you want to teach them because you never know who's going to be what tomorrow and contribute to the development and success of this nation and this world. So from every level, let's just make sure that we play our roles. I'll play my role as the girl child. You play your role as the boy child. Play your role as a parent. Play your role as a policymaker. Play your role as any action bringer. Play your role. So this is what I'm saying to everyone. And to the policymakers, let us also take into consideration the investment to health, because a healthy woman is a healthy generation and a healthy tomorrow and a healthy future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siatra. Play your role. That's the word we will leave it this event with. And if I can add something for my last commitment as a young woman, I would love to see both institutions continuing to give in a meaningful role to young people, as it was the case for the AU-EU Youth Hub. We are soon coming to an end of our mandate as young experts, and we're very looking forward to the replication of these program that brings together youth from both continents, and 6 projects financed by the 2 institutions with a budget of 10 million and 17 countries affected and part of the implementing projects. So there is a huge potential, and we would love to continue to see this collaboration between the 2 institutions with the youth at its core. Thank you so much for joining us, and please continue to follow the EWAG and you report ambassadors on their journey. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.